Good morning, everybody. It is July 4th, 2024, and I'm attempting to have my second successful technologically live stream here at the Mount Angel Theater studio in beautiful downtown Mount Angel, Oregon. My name is John Deschler. You can Google me. I'm a photographer, a musician, an educator, the vice president of the Oregon Substitute Teacher Association, and the proprietor of this humble space. This humble space was built, supposedly, in around 1912 as a silent movie house originally, and eventually became a actual talkie movie theater. And in 1980, my friend Stu Rasmussen bought it and began a conversion from a movie theater to a live performance theater and video production studio. And he had this space and worked on it, kind of creating it, installing all the stage lighting and now historic video infrastructure for 40 years. And Stu and I became friends in about 2010 when I returned to the northern Willamette Valley area from Los Angeles. My second relocation to Oregon in my adult life. And at that time, Stu was the first openly transgendered mayor of Silverton, Oregon. And I encourage you to look him up. He was a very bright and industrious individual who was socially liberal and fiscally conservative and very much into being potent in his life. And this building, just under 3,000 square feet, was one of the expressions of that potency in his life. Over time, he recognized that I was a fairly industrious person myself, a productive and talented photographer, seasoned, and we formed any number of different collaborations over the years. Essentially, on his deathbed, he asked me if I would take over this space. And eventually, the culmination of energies from him, his widow, and his business partner of over 50 years, Mr. Roger Paulson, a Silverton native who spent most of his life in Portland and an excellent pianist, basically made it impossible for me to say no to taking on this endeavor in my very late 50s. So I've been at it now for about 2.5 years, approaching 2.5 years, trying to figure out how to utilize the space in such a way that it kept it an arts space, performance space, studio space. So I've named it Matt's Mount Angel Theater Studio. The first season, performance season of 2022, we did 2 and then 3 live shows a week. I thought perhaps the offering of some sophisticated Great American Songbook music and classical piano might be well appreciated, particularly by the retirees in the general vicinity, at least 20,000 of them within about a 15-mile radius. I got some editorial exposure back then in the early spring of 2022. And we had some come out, but we never had a raging success were huge embracing from the local community. And then I slimmed down the offerings in the summer of 2023 with my eldest son, very talented musician himself, Nate Deschler, now in Nashville. And again, we had, some wonderful connections made, but very little business success with the concept. Essentially understandable. This town is a town of about 3,500 people, which equates to the population of my high school back in the late 1970s, U.S. Grant High in North Hollywood, California, in the center of the San Fernando Valley. We are here in Mount Angel, downtown across the street from the City Hall, and about 4 miles away from Silverton, Oregon, a town of now maybe 11, approaching 12,000, quite possibly. And Silverton is somewhat well known for its being the gateway to the beautiful Silver Falls State Park. I encourage anyone and everyone in the area or coming to the area to definitely visit the Silver Falls State Park. The waterfall image you've seen on the screen every minute and a half or so is the Abaquaw Falls, and I shot that image maybe close to 10 years ago now, and I really didn't shoot it. It was a scan. I brought a tripod, a camera, and dissected that image, left with about 400 pictures after about 2.5 hours, and then spent a few days in Photoshop recombining them. I did that so that I could manifest a very high resolution image at a very large size, should I ever want to. Essentially, the core information of that image would allow me to make an 8 by 10 foot print at 300 DPI because of the way I utilize the sensor in the DSLR. In fact, the DSLR that I shot that image with, or group of images with, is camera 2 over here that shows you the side view of this set. And over the course of my live streaming, I will touch on many different subjects, photography being one of my main specialties. I am a globally published photographer. I've worked for many companies and institutions over my long career. And I started out as a teenage jazz photographer in North Hollywood, California in 1977. So more about all of that later. These first few live streams and videos are meant to essentially introduce myself, the space, the story of me getting the space. This chair here was Stu Rasmussen's, and I have it here as a symbol and reflection of him and his long-standing commitment to this community. I essentially feel like I'm in partnership with Stu at this point in time, even though he passed and we lost him, as I said, about 2.5 years ago. Today, one of the things I'm trying to do is make sure that I manage the audio levels well in this live stream podcast and build in a comfortable operation for myself. Because one of the things I'm going to have to do in this whole endeavor is to be able to do it all by myself, which is what I'm doing here on the 4th of July, 2024. Happy 4th of July, everybody. We're going to start to have a heat wave here in Oregon starting today and tomorrow. So I'm starting very early. I think I started this live stream at about 6:30 a.m. And so Stu and I became friends and collaborators over about 14 years. I would often see him every Tuesday at the infamous, now defunct, Woodburn auction. Quite a unique happening. a place where you could find almost anything. In fact, I think many things in here he probably did get at the auction. At the time, I was renovating my 1880s farmhouse, which is about 4 or 5 miles away, that I had gotten for a song, and would go to the auction to find things I might need to revitalize and repurpose the house, many plants, trees, pressure tanks, tools, etc., etc. And he and I had already established a friendship, so every time I would be at the auction, he would inevitably at least come through and take a look, and we'd visit for 5 or 10, maybe 15 minutes, bring each other up to date on our happenings. And that reinforced our relationship. Later on, I helped him in his project of working on the facade of this building, and after COVID took over and I had given up my smaller meat locker studio nearby that I had rented for 10 years, I had cause to need a space to give a photography lesson. And I called Stu and I said, would I be able to use your little theater for a photography lesson? And he was so gracious and so pithy that he said, meet me over there. And I met him here. He handed me a key. There was no discussion of anything else, really, other than go ahead and use it. So that would have been, I think, in the fall of 2020. And we lost him in the fall of 2022. So I encourage you to look up Stu. He was well loved by many in the area. As I said, he was the first openly transgendered mayor in the country. And as a late blooming gay divorced father of 2, myself, that meant a lot to me and still does. So I am here to affirm one and all higher brain function and mindful thinking and processes moving forward in this endeavor and pretty much everything I do. So the space is a 100-seat humble theater. I have the ability to show movies here, do live performance. In the camera number 2 shot, you'll see our Spin-It piano. That was donated by Juan Olasalan and his father, Juan Olasalan Sr. Wonderful family and an incredibly talented classical pianist. Young Juan I met subbing at Mount Angel High School, I think now 2 years ago. He would come in when we would be giving our live performances in the summer of 22 and 23 and play Rachmaninoff, Beethoven, Chopin, etc., etc. At some point, I gave him and his father a lead on a piano sale where they ended up buying apparently a very good grand piano for their home. So they gifted the theater their Spin-It. That's what we have here. Nate and I performed many times on the Spin-It, which you can see on my YouTube page. That would be John Deschler, Jondeshler, which is a culmination of many videos I've made over my life of the last, say, 20 years or so, and mostly the Tune Tours project that I co-invented with my gracious musician partner, Mr. Neil Grandstaff, at the inception of the advent of the COVID situation. We ran all over Oregon in that early COVID era of 2020 and 2021, playing the Great American Songbook in beautiful landscapes in Oregon. If Oregon is known for one thing, and it should be, it's beautiful landscapes. From the Pacific Ocean to the Alvord Desert, we made humble, homemade little videos, slowly, always increasing the quality and the production level in those videos. Go check them out on John Deschler's YouTube page. You can search my name, or Tune Tours. That would be TUNETOURS. So when I was doing those videos, I had no idea that I would end up with this space and be applying and building knowledge to be able to create and produce a live stream like you're seeing now. But that's what's happened. So I consider myself a lifelong improviser, not necessarily the greatest improvising bebop trumpet player by any means. But in photography, in life, I have found it essential to be adaptable and very perceptive in all of my endeavors. So that's what I've done, and that's what I'm doing here and now. I have one laptop, one of Stu's handheld digital video cameras is camera number one of my DSLRs is camera number 2, and a relatively modern mid-priced webcam for this rear shot so you can actually see the whole theater. Again, it's 100 seats. We're allowed to have 115 people in here. There's 2 emergency exits, one to your right and one to my rear and right over here. We have had maybe as many as 80 or 90 people in here a couple of times since I took possession. I've rented this place out for private movie watching parties, musical performances for the Soundstream Studio, a musical lesson studio in Silverton, Oregon. And I look forward to utilizing it more in that regard moving forward. Essentially, the 3 experiments I'm running with the space this year will be this podcasting effort, which I hope to make successful. Please give me a thumbs up and a like, a comment if you would like, and subscribe. It will help me keep this space as a vital and productive art space in this humble rural community between Oregon's financial center, which is Portland, about 40 to 45 miles north of here, and Salem, the capital of our state, about 20 to 22 miles south and slightly west of here. And that's my intention. So the podcast is level 1 this year. Since my secret weapon of live performance, my son, has left, Nate Deschler, very talented bassoonist and pianist, who's also a composer and arranger, got a wonderful opportunity in Nashville, which he decided to relocate to about 4 months ago. The second tier of my exploration and experiment with this space this year will be to become the safe zone concierge ambassador to the nearby urban LGBT and LGBT-friendly communities in Portland and Salem for the 2024 Oktoberfest. A fun and crowded, busy festival billed as the largest Oktoberfest this side of the Rockies that occurs in mid-September every year, now going on, I think, 50-ish years. I think it was started in the late 60s, so it might be approaching 60 years. And we've done live performances here during the last 2 Oktoberfests with some humble movies made by myself. And so this year I'm trying to get, and have succeeded in getting, some support from the nearby cities in providing some slightly alternative programming, you might say. There won't be any pa in here, for example, during the Oktoberfest. Why? Because you can find that in multiple venues outside of this space. But we are at ground zero, So I'm going to have the Portland Lesbian Choir performing at least one, if not two, concerts during the 4-day event. I have a dear friend, Merrick Harris, wonderful composer, who's going to at least come and play a few sonatas that he wrote on piano. I'll have, of course, the illustrious Neil Grandstaff performing with myself, maybe a few others. I'm going to have some films playing off and on, my own and others. That's in development right now. So that's the second leg of my experiments here at the Mount Angel Theater Studio in 2024. The third leg is the private movie watching parties. Bring your 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 friends and family, your favorite DVD, bring in your pizza, or go next door to my buddy Dre's Sports Bar, 210 Pub, and have a good time. And I would really like to make that offering more well-known and viable for the community at large within 50 to 100 miles of Mount Angel. We've done this now, I want to say close to a half a dozen times, and it's really sweet because it's a very intimate space. It's almost, like a large living room. And I have a nice sound system, a nice screen behind this wonderful painting that I'll talk about in a minute. And we can do whatever we want in here. So once we set it up for whatever it is we do want to do. So those are the 3 business experiments this year, and I have high hopes for the podcast. My Oregon Substitute Teacher Board members, fellow board members, are interested in coming and doing some live streams with me, and we have a lot to talk about because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Oregon education, which I've been doing now for about 2 years. They made me their vice president last fall, somewhat reluctantly because I'm very busy, but I felt like it was an excellent cause, and the leadership is a phenomenal group, small group, albeit, of people, a couple of which have been at it since its inception in the mid-'70s. So that would be going on, 45 to 50 years now. So I want to support that effort because I'm a big proponent of life on this planet and babies' brains and higher thinking. So that being said, I will now segue, hopefully eloquently, to this wonderful and spectacular painting called Chaya behind me. And I incorporate Chaya in this initializing effort of my podcast because she and her artist were pivotal in many ways in the early part of my Tune Tours project that was my adaptation to COVID. When COVID hit, I had managed to rebirth a late-blooming musical performance career in this northern Willamette Valley. And by the time COVID hit, I had secured a steady Friday night gig in Old Town Portland at a old standard restaurant called Hobo's, which was also the inception of all of the Portland-Shanghai tunnel tours that people would meet there and then go down below the street level and engage in tours of what were the historic Portland-Shanghai tunnels from the 19th century. And I had managed to secure a steady Friday night performance opportunity for my jazz trio, the illustrious Jay Jorgensen and Neil Grandstaff. We would perform after James Blackburn, a wonderful pianist who had held down the solo piano dinner hour piano bar job there for decades. I think at least 20 years James played there. So by the time COVID shut it all down, we had been performing at Hobo's for about 6 months. And by the end of March 2020, I was kind of horrified, I'm sure, as everybody else was. But particularly as a trumpet player, if you don't play every day, you're not helping yourself out. And you're probably not maintaining, you're certainly not getting better. And I was heavily on that case of maintaining and getting better at that point in time because I was starting to encounter some success as a representative of the brass family in Oregon, all of which is a slight oxymoron. Many of you will be aware of the fact that a lot of live music, if not most of the live music, particularly in the vast rural regions of Oregon, is denoted by someone with a cowboy hat and a guitar. And I have no problems with people with cowboy hats or a guitar, but they do not make the summation of live music at all. So in my region, I became a bit of a adamant and somewhat religious supporter of diverse arrays of instrument and musical material and repertoire. Another mission I've been on for some time now. But so in late March of 2020, I was so horrified, I realized the only thing I could do would be to go outside and blow my horn. So I did that one day at the nearby Wooden Shoe Tulip Bulb Farm, a place I had shot an Oregon Symphony program cover at well over 30 years ago with the then principal cellist, whose name eludes me at the moment. And I rode over there. My house is about 4 miles from there. I loaded up my KLR 650 with my horn on my back, my Galaxy S9 in my pocket, a little tripod strapped to the rack of the motorcycle, and went over and made what apparently became the inception of my Tune Tours project. Again, you can see that on my YouTube page. Just look up John Deschler or Tune Tours. When my son Nate called me, I think by June of 2020, and said, "Dad, they've asked me to go back to work on Bourbon Street," where he played with the Steamboat Willie Band for 5 years, 4 nights a week, 6 and 7 hours a night, for no pay. He said he was going to take a road trip and he'd see me in a couple weeks. Well, that led to us, Neil and Justin Shepage and I had already started going out making more videos, playing music. That was a horn, a guitar, and a bass. Well, those 3 instruments could be driven anywhere and then kind of walked a little distance. But when my son Nate decided to come visit for an extended summer stay of about a month or so, that compelled me to put a full-size upright piano that we got off of Craigslist for free, a really nice one, in the back of my pickup truck. And that was a phenomenal situation in itself. It was in the back of the pickup for 4 months. I made videos ultimately with 7 piano players, including my son. And Nate and I ran over the mountains, the Cascades, once with the piano in the back of the truck with my beautiful St. Bernard, Theo. And at some point, we made it all the way to the ghost town of Andrews on the western edge of the Alvord Desert, or the eastern side of the Steens Mountains. And that's where I finally got to meet the illustrious, beautiful John Simpkins, the painter of this incredible 10 by 16 foot canvas that he painted by hand. And that led to a blossoming friendship between John and myself, which later led to more visits. Ultimately, when he had been on the Alvord in Andrews for about 10 years, And it wasn't long after we left him and gave him a little private performance, him and his poodle, Chaya, at his place on the Alvord. It wasn't long after that that he ultimately got asked to leave that location, and he ended up at the Churchill School in Baker City. That's where he painted this painting. You can see a couple videos on my YouTube page in his studio of us performing Lady in Red and Pure Imagination in front of this painting in his studio. And then I think it was the following year that I had another gig over there in Baker. And at that point in time is when John and I had discussed, it was when I was taking over this space, or had just taken over this space for Stu, and we discussed me bringing this very large, I think his largest canvas ever, back here to take custody of it and get it some exposure, which I've done quite a bit, and now I'm doing a little bit more. John has since relocated to one of the Amana colonies in Iowa, an old granary that he's having a very good time in with his poodle, Chaya. And so he is just a wonderfully talented and playful painter, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I thought it made a beautiful setting for the initializing of this live stream podcasting effort. This chair I got about 30 plus years ago. I loved it and wanted to use it as a prop in a number of photo shoots, which I did. Many of my friends and family are aware of this chair. And then this high heel zebra shoe chair was Stu's. And so I wanted to begin this live stream this way to introduce a lot of the core elements that have led to me being here in this space now under these circumstances. So that's the essence of the beginning of the story. And this is my second, I hope, successful live stream podcast, because I did this, I think either yesterday morning, number 2, and I went through a half an hour or so, and for some reason there was no audio. And that was meant to be an audio test. So I made a number of adjustments, checked a number of boxes, and I really want to test this audio and do a few audio tests at different distances and with different microphones before I hang up on this call, if you will, and just keep building my comfort level and knowledge base with all of this diverse technology. I've essentially repurposed a ton of old equipment, mine and Stu's. I don't think I'm using anything that's newer than 10 years old, except for the software, the OBS software, and which I've been trying to learn the last number of months. A painful experience at 61, I have to say, learning more software. This is not anything I really cared to do, but I had to do it in order to do this. And in the last 2 weeks, I've really focused on the plug-in that is the Advanced Auto Scene Switcher, which is why I can be here and show you all of these views of the space. And it seems to be working. So I have 2 microphones set up. This one here on the stand, which you've seen and heard me on. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. That's about as close as I'd want to get. And this is now probably about 18 inches away, and I want to kind of test all this stuff because I'm no audio expert, but I'm rapidly building more experience and knowledge in all of these endeavors. And I think one of the things I'm going to do next is I'm going to get up, pick up a untethered wired mic, we'll call it mic 2, I think I'm going to go back and do a couple of zooms, hopefully graceful and slow zooms on camera one. And then I'm going to pick up my horn, which will be tricky because to be a producer, a director, a talking head, a DP, and a technical person in all of these endeavors, and then to pick up my horn and feel the pressure is not an easy thing to do. But I want to get the sound check that I might be able to foster um, by moving around the space with these microphones in place to begin to see what it'll be like to ultimately live stream some live music. Because my incredible friend and creative partner Neil Grandstaff and I will look forward to bringing you some live music from this stage, possibly as soon as the second Saturday of this month, which will be, this is Thursday the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th is the 13th of July. We will do live performances here the second Saturday nights of the month through October at the very least. And I do hope to be able to create the technological sophistication to bring you those live performances of the Great American Songbook and beyond to this endeavor. So that being said, I'm going to get up, I'm going to set this slightly aside over the arm of the chair, which is where it is now, and I'm going to pick up, that was pretty good, pick up this handheld mic and speak softly directly into it. By the way, the settings on the mixer board are at about 3 o'clock for both of these microphones. And this one being untethered will allow me to move to camera one and do a little zoom in. I'm just going to do it real briefly and quickly like this. There you can see it zooming in. You can get a little closer look at the painting. You might notice that John is on the back of his poodle, which is definitively a symbol of their closeness and the emotional support that his wonderful dog provides him. Working often as a solo artist in solitude to paint such incredible pieces. And in this painting, you may or may not be able to see it, I will do another rendition where I maybe move the chairs so I can really give you a up-close view of all of these wonderful details in the painting. I might have to engineer one of the clip-on microphones for that so I can speak to you while I do manual camera moves to zoom into some of the details. But he's got small figures, he's got the Twin Towers, he's got a person flying a kite, he's got an image of a bicyclist. So many subtle little details in this beautiful painting that I've shared with many people here now and wanted to share with you all. So in any case, I will zoom out now a little bit to resume the whole set that we started with right there. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to lay this particular microphone down, pointing towards camera number one before I pick up my horn and attempt to play a few. I've only played a couple notes this morning, haven't done a complete warm-up, but I will attempt to just do a couple little melodies possibly and get that sound check in. So I'm here from the Mount Angel Theater studio, John Deschler, wishing everybody a happy 4th of July and a safe 4th of July and a wonderful summer. So if you find yourself downtown Mount Angel or anywhere in the area, please look me up, contact me, come on by. I have some of my historic photography on the walls. My dear friend Kathy Cheney, who was the Portland Business Journal photographer and has traveled the world, is going to bring some of her work in before the Oktoberfest, and I'll hang some of that up. And I just want to try to keep this an art space for self-expression and sharing among kind and friendly human beings. So that's the mission, folks. All right, here we go. I'm going to set this microphone down and pick up the horn. And see how the microphones pick up the audio of both my voice and the horn as I attempt a little warm-up and a little playing, serenading John and his painting. Okay, so that was pointing that way. I'll go forward. Maybe I'll just try one this way. That's Stardust, folks. And that's going to serve, I think, as my sound test. Maybe I should do one from here, like this. What if I'd ever want to sit down and, I wonder, this is getting pretty close to this microphone, so this is the audio. It's about 24 inches away. All right, I'm building my comfort level. I'm praying this thing is working. So now it looks like I have 2 audio tracks feeding, which I didn't earlier. So anyways, this is going to be a very interesting test. Thank you for listening. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe. It's not my choice of a world that we've come into here, but I am trying to participate and be a vital member of the broader community, which includes all of these digital dynamics. And I have a lot to say about that another time. But at this juncture, I want to, again, wish everybody a happy 4th of July. If you caught the live stream, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed watching an authentic attempt at becoming a podcaster from this humble space. And again, have a wonderful and a safe 4th of July. And visit us here in Mount Angel if you're in the area. I also have a website for this theater, which is MTAngelStudio.com. That would be www.mountangeltheaterstudio.com. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And I hope to see you sometime soon. Forgive me for watching the laptop. Again, it's a solo do-it-yourself endeavor that I find myself undertaking at the inception of this effort in the Mount Angel Theater Studio. Have a wonderful, safe day, folks. Be responsible, and please be kind to your fellow human beings and all life forms on the planet. It's all we have.